Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. Today's video examines how the Trump administration's decision not to release the Epstein files demonstrates the hollowness of the MAGA movement. As many of you are aware, the DOJ released a two-page memo asserting that there is no Epstein client list and that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. The letter determined that there was no evidence to support the idea that Jeffrey Epstein had a client list or was blackmailing politicians using his sex trafficking operation. The memo explained that no further information would be released in order to protect the victims of Epstein's heinous crimes. The memo explains the files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images, and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting the victims, unquote. The memo further explains, through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties, unquote. Needless to say, this didn't go over well with the right-wing media sphere, with numerous right-wing commentators either falling in line to avoid talking about Epstein or outright calling for Attorney General Pam Bondi to resign or be fired. Far-right commentator and rage-baiting racist Laura Loomer posted, quote, "How come Blondie didn't sign her name to her own memo about the Epstein files? She needs to resign. This is going to suppress the vote in 2026. The American people and MAGA base will not tolerate being lied to. I hope President Trump fires Pam Blondie if she lacks the shame to resign. I called for her resignation the day of Bindergate, 5 months later, and Blondie is still an abomination," unquote. Others, such as Megyn Kelly, have argued that the attempt to downplay the importance of the alleged client list is unlikely to go away.
J.D. Vance, Don Jr., Alina Habba, many of the president's surrogates have been stirring the Epstein pot now for years. And so, we are owed more than a two-page memo.
On the other side of the equation, TPUSA founder and conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk appears to have given up pressing the administration for more information about the client list.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend.
It is worth noting that these comments by Kirk came after Donald Trump called him on Saturday, seemingly persuading him to ease off the Epstein issue. While conservatives like Kirk are trusting the Trump administration, most Americans are dissatisfied with the decision not to release the information that the administration has. Roughly half of Americans say they are dissatisfied with the information the government has released on Epstein, and only 3% of Americans say they are satisfied with the information provided by the government. Another poll conducted by Reuters and Ipsos showed that 69% of Americans think that the federal government is hiding the Epstein files. All of this is to say that Donald Trump is facing a serious backlash for his handling of the Epstein case, but what is especially telling is how he has responded to the demands for the alleged client list. In an event with the press, Trump leaped to the defense of Pam Bondi after she was asked about the footage involving Epstein's cell. The footage had a jump of about 1 minute, prompting reporters to ask about alleged editing. Trump interrupted and lamented that people were still talking about Epstein, forgetting the fact that many of the people he had appointed have been talking about Epstein for a long time.
Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the staff?
Yeah, sure. If
Hey,
I
Pam,
could.
could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Nor was this the only time he lashed out on the issue. In a post on the 16th of July, Trump castigated people who were calling for the Epstein client list as people who were falling for a supposed hoax. He further argued, quote, "They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. I have had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history, and all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax," unquote. These are not the actions of a man who is interested in transparency, much less giving people a fair shake about the events surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. This is a man who consistently teased the release of the Epstein files and is now backtracking on his promises. Now, I'm not going to say that Trump is on the client list because I don't have any evidence to suggest that said list even exists, and it would be irresponsible for me to throw around accusations without evidence, especially on something as sensitive as this issue. And to be clear, by client list, I mean a formal list of people who engaged in sexual abuse on Epstein's island, not just a collection of files that have yet to be released surrounding the case. Again, I don't have any evidence to suggest such a list exists, nor am I suggesting that it doesn't exist at all. All I am saying is that I don't honestly know. However, what I do know is that the Trump campaign and now the Trump administration have promoted the idea that this list exists, and its officials have promised to release it. In an interview with Fox News' John Roberts, Pam Bondi was directly asked whether the Trump administration would release the client list, and she said she had it on her desk.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Attorney General Bondi later stated that she meant the general files from the case, not a specific client list. However, as you saw in the clip, the reporter specifically asked her about a client list, not general files. So either she was hyping this up when she didn't have the list, or she is lying now. At this point, it's a matter of flipping a coin as to which lie she told. The issue is made even more difficult by the statements of former Trump lawyer Alan Dershowitz, who, in an interview with Sean Spicer in March of this year, said, quote, "I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them, but I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know," unquote. Dershowitz further went on to say, "I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong," unquote. It's worth noting that Dershowitz served as a member of Epstein's defense team during the criminal proceedings, so he would have access to some of that material. However, in a recent interview with Chris Cuomo, Dershowitz argued that no client list exists and that some material is being withheld by two judges, not the Trump administration.
Is the government hiding a client list or anything that the Trump administration could release tonight?
No, there is no client list. There never has been a client list. A client list suggests that Jeffrey Epstein made a list of people to whom he trafficked women. What there is a redacted FBI affidavit from accusers. There are several of them. From accusers that accuse Jeffrey, that accuse various people of having improper sex. And that has been redacted. The names of the people accused have been blacked out. Now, of course, because I was the lawyer and I did all the investigations, I know who all these people are. I could figure out, based on everything that I saw, who Mr. X is, Mr. Y is, and Mr. Z. I can tell you right now, none of them are public figures who are currently in office. Some of them were previously in office. Some of them are dead. But there is no client list. And the redactions could be undone if you go to court. So many of the things that are being suppressed by two judges in Manhattan. And they're doing it largely to protect the alleged accusers who are, in the view of the judges, victims, even though we don't know what their actual status is. But the judges have issued orders, which is why I can't disclose things I'd love to disclose, saying that you can't disclose this information. But Pam Bondi and the Justice Department and Donald Trump are not responsible for that. I don't know of any information that they could disclose that they haven't disclosed. Now, maybe there is some, but I'm simply not aware of it.
I want to note the fundamental difference in Dershowitz's tone here. While the issue of a direct list is again contested, the fact that Dershowitz was willing to suggest that information was being wrongfully suppressed in March when it benefited his side of the aisle is damning, especially considering how he is now doing absolutely nothing to hold the Trump administration accountable for failing to push for more transparency. If two judges were willing to block this issue, then surely Dershowitz could name them. but I highly doubt that he will. And that is honestly what the Epstein case has been for the right this entire time, a political prop. Hell, Kash Patel, the current director of the FBI, repeatedly asserted that there was a client list and that the FBI had access to Epstein's black book before he was appointed to lead the nation's chief law enforcement bureau.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black book?
black book?
FBI.
But who? That is I mean, there's.
Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word or whoever that guy is as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Despite this, the official position of the Department of Justice is again that this list doesn't exist. So I have a question for the GOP. If this list doesn't exist as the administration suggests, why were we subjected to continuous conspiracy theories claiming that the deep state had all this power through sex trafficking and blackmail? Why were people like Kash Patel nominated to hold some of the most important positions in our government while they were grifting off this issue? And why was Pam Bondi claiming that she had the list on her desk when she didn't? And finally, why out of all the people in politics did you honestly believe that someone like Donald Trump would release the Epstein files? Donald Trump is the same man who, on the Howard Stern show in 2005, bragged about going into the dressing rooms of young women without their consent.
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like
everything
a
is
doctor.
good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Donald Trump has always been a creep, and as this story has progressed, more evidence has come out to testify to that fact. Recent reporting by the Wall Street Journal, which is by no means a liberal publication, showed that Donald Trump sent a lewd and inappropriate letter to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. In that letter, Donald Trump wrote to Epstein, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret," unquote. Why would someone like this ever be trustworthy with something as sensitive as files involving sex trafficking? For all this time, Republicans have held onto this idea that Trump would expose the deep state and a supposed cabal of pedophiles. But when it comes to actually being transparent, Donald Trump has shown exactly who he is. If this list does exist, what does its absence from the public record reveal about the administration when they claim it isn't real? This is an issue that the GOP raised consistently online and in the conservative media sphere, and now they have nothing to show for it. Either there is no list and conservatives spent all this time grifting off the suffering of Epstein's victims for political gain, which is disgusting in and of itself, or it does exist in some capacity, and it is dangerous to the Trump administration and the GOP. Neither option is acceptable. And to be clear, if the list does exist and includes prominent Democrats, it should be released. It doesn't matter what party a person is a part of. If they are a predator, they should be exposed and face consequences. But seeing how the Trump administration is handling this, I doubt we will get any clear answers in the future. It's just another example of how this administration doesn't really care about what it says or does, no matter who it hurts.